Hey, welcome. I'm Alana from Alana Jade Studio, and today we're talking with quiet marketing expert, or revolutionary as I like to call her, Danielle Gardner. So we're going to be having a chat about opt-ins, those free things that we have on our website to entice people to sign up to our mailing lists. And these are one of those kinds of things that we're all told we need to have, and it's sort of one of those marketing tools that none of us ever really question. But Dani has questioned it. She's questioned it a lot, and possibly, I would say, even revolutionized the whole idea. So Dani has been, I would say, opt-in free for maybe a couple of years now, certainly as long as I have been following you. Yeah. And contrary to what we're told, she's actually built a very successful business without an opt-in. So if you're feeling like, the opt-in kind of thing doesn't really feel right in your body, that's often a good sign. Or maybe you've got an opt-in and it's just not performing in the way that you have expected it to, then you'll definitely want to listen to this chat. We're going to find out why and how Dani kicked, I'll call it the opt-in habit, and how she's actually built a successful business without an opt-in. Welcome, Dani.
Thank you, Alana. So cool to be catching up with you and talking about this topic.
Yes, so cool. It's something that I feel really passionate about and have followed you for quite some time on it. So let's dive in. So let's start with, I've got a few questions over here. So let's start with you telling us a little bit about when and how you started to realize that having an opt-in for your business wasn't really feeling like it was the right thing for you anymore.
Yeah. So first of all, I guess like everyone, I just didn't even question it. It's like, I want to be successful. How do you be successful? You need to have this and this and this. So, I was just like, okay. And followed suit. Now I think what I started to notice, because I like looking at data, like my own data, not just any data, but, I was always quite interested about looking at, open and click-through rates and stuff like that. And actually, whenever I sent an email out, I don't know, I imagine a lot of people do this. I suppose it's not just me, but I have this kind of bad habit in a way of looking straight to how many unsubscribes did I get, right? And so then what I would do is I wouldn't just look at the number. I would go and look at, I'd be a little bit, what's the word? When you follow someone.
Stalking.
Yeah, that's the word, stalking. Kind of, but not really, only within my own system. But so I would go, okay, so here's that person's name. Then I'd click through to see their history, because I wanted to understand, when did they get on my list? How did they get on my list? And then I would see, through that opt-in. Oh, okay, cool. And then move on. Then I check the next one. Oh, that opt-in. Okay, cool. So I started to just mentally get this picture. And one of the first things I noticed is that the opt-ins that were very popular, that people signed up for very quickly, were the ones that also got the most unsubscribes. Now, I don't believe that was because of the quality of the opt-in, because in many cases it actually hadn't been opened or clicked through or stuff like that. So I knew it wasn't to do with the quality of that. But what I realized is that I started to see how the quicker someone got on my list, the more likely they were to subscribe, or not only not subscribe, but just not open my stuff. Right. And so I imagined that, in thinking about my own experience of how I had done that as well, like if I don't know, I pretty much don't sign up for things now, but of course, occasionally I do. But before, all the time, I'd be looking for something or need something. Someone would have it as a freebie and it'd be just like, gimme. I didn't know them from a bar of soap, but I wanted their stuff. I wanted their thing. So I didn't really kind of care about them, So what I noticed is I would have names pop up in my inbox and think, who are they? Who is he? Who's that? what the hell, And I'm like, yeah, that's what people are doing to me, because if they sign up very quickly, they don't have a chance to know who I am from a bar of soap, And so they might not open my emails for a while, and then they finally go, I'm going to open up because I don't know who this girl is, and then unsubscribe, So I'm like, okay, interesting. The quicker they get on, not necessarily the quicker that they get off, but the more unsubscribes, What I found was so also the freebies that went well. And at this time I was quite active in a particular Facebook group, a very large one. So at the time I thought I was totally winning, I'd come out with this freebie and I just get I could grow my list by 50 people in a day or something, and it costs nothing. And I was like, yeah, winning here. But they're the ones that I got the most unsubscribes from. And then also summits. So, these, online summits, 100 speakers, no, I'm exaggerating, 20 speakers or whatever it is. Generally, if you're asked to participate in that, they want you to give a freebie, So that was another thing I noticed. Whenever I'd spoken for a summit and offered a freebie, I got the most unsubscribes there as well. So that was the first sort of, I can't remember the exact turning point, but actually, I think what happened is I got a little bit like, what the hell, and I lost interest in actually building a list. And for a little while, I didn't even attempt to build a list. I took away the freebie. And I just thought, I'm just going to build community. I'm just going to build community via other means. And at the time, that meant really just social media, just sharing my point of view, just being helpful. And then eventually, I bought not a freebie back in, but I put more emphasis on my list via a different way. So I'll just pause there for a moment, because I think you know what that other way is.
Can you just give us a quick little, because this is where I came in to find you at that point, because I'd got rid of my opt-in as well, and then I found you and you were doing this thing and I thought it was brilliant, and I actually replicated it as well because it's such a cool idea. Can you just give us a little so we understand your journey, because you're not doing this anymore, but this was one of those stepping stones.
That's right. So then so there was the gap where no freebie for a while. It could have even been a year actually. And then I just started to realize that really it is important for me to build my own list. But my thinking was and really what I was working on is, I wanted to that saying you get in marketing, it's like kind of, I forget how they do it, but it's like get them on the list, then cultivate a relationship or something. Do you know what I mean? If there's a nice way or a more elegant way of saying it. But I thought, no, I want to nurture. I think it's nurture. I wanted to nurture my audience before they join my list. So that's how I was thinking about it. And so one way to do that was, there's kind of a few angles to this. I didn't want to make it easy for people to join my list. That's probably one thing. So I, how we get told it's got to be above the fold, the whole opt-in thing. And I followed that for a while, and I'm like, no, I want it to be like way below the fold, really hard to find. And if you get that far, if you get that far, you can proceed to the next challenge, and you can get to my page where how dare I ask some questions before you even join the list. So the other thing we're taught in marketing is ask the bare minimum, maybe name, but a lot of people don't. They just go for the email address, right? So what I did, I was like, name, full name. How did you find out about me? What kind of, what's going on for you right now? Basically, what are your challenges in your business? And what are the things that you need, that you feel you need help with? Now, over the time, I found different ways to ask especially the challenges and what they need help with. but that's basically what those questions were based around. So sometimes I put, instead of saying, what do you need help with? Sometimes I would put, what live workshops would you like me to run, or something, or, you know, so I didn't want to be putting words in people's mouths. That was quite important, because I'm quite a market research nerd, and I didn't want to kind of put like a selection of things and go, although I have, and that can be okay, but I just thought, no, like, let's just put my list aside. I just want to get their words. So people actually had to type stuff. And so because I value market research so much, this form just had dual purposes, or, you know, probably more than dual, but, you know, like, it was hard. Like, so some people would get to that page and probably thought, what the hell? Like, and off they go, you know, fine. In fact, I don't know if it was on the page when you saw it, Alana, but I put something like, hey, and if this all feels too much for you, just keep following me on like Facebook or something.
Facebook. I love that.
So and so that information, that form, automatically gets put into a spreadsheet for me, so I can see all of the data in one snapshot. And this is sort of kind of a little bit off track, but I'll just touch on it. This is one error people make, I think, when they are doing something with market research. They kind of have a little bit of info here and that document and all over the place, and it's not really useful because it's hard to, you know. So this little system just worked so well.
And I can imagine too, because you were having people, like, you weren't giving them selections to choose from, you were really kind of seeing their language as well, and the language that they were using. So then that would also come in valuable later when you're, say, writing content, blog posts, or putting an offering out or something like that, to use their language.
And so sometimes really, I would use it verbatim. You know, someone would say, like, in a sentence something, and I think, oh my God, that is powerful. And then, you know about the message organizer document I have. So sometimes those verbatim would get transferred directly into that, which, you know, is used for then different types of content and offerings and whatnot. So such a valuable thing, which when we get to the later bit, what I'm doing now, that was the real stickler for me, because it's like I was kind of giving up that process because I changed how I wanted to do things. So we'll come to that in a moment. Just tell us, because I'm sure that people are wondering, when you did that, tell us, were there, you know, one or two really, other than the market research, were there any other one or two things that really surprised you positively about that? But also, was there any downfalls of moving away from opt-in as well? So it was, I didn't build my list as fast, you know. It was slow.
So did you get kind of like FOMO, or other, like, thinking, oh, my sorry, I'm just putting words in your mouth.
But like, that's a good point. Like, did I get FOMO as if, like, I'm not doing it quick enough? Sort of. But I had also started to adopt this belief or philosophy about doing less things better, or doing more with less, you know. So so I guess the downside, and I made a note here, I put slower list building, and then I put ... but was that even a downfall, you know? Because we
quality over quantity.
Exactly. That's the thing. But, you know, again, it's one of these sort of, I feel it's a little bit of a vanity metrics, like, how big's your list? You know,
totally.
And if someone, I've had people wanting me to be part of something and say, you got to have 5,000, you know, people on your list. Now, do you know what? I've never had 5,000 people on my list. In fact, I've culled my list. I haven't culled it for a while, but you know, I actually at one point I lost my whole list, and it was funny, like, part of me was going, Danny, you're meant to be devastated right now. And I could tell that there was this other part of me kind of doing cartwheels, and I'm like, because there was something very liberating about losing this list that had been built on freebies, but I was able to retrieve probably, I don't know, a quarter of the list from Thinkific, and a lot of people there had actually paid for something. So there's that. So the only like so-called downside is having a much smaller list. But as you said, it's a more quality list. Certainly has way more open and click-through rates doing it this way.
Yeah.
And back when I had freebies, I didn't really sell from my list. Like people didn't tend to buy anything from my list, I mainly made sales through social media. And then now, like I film most of my things through my list, and a lot of it doesn't reach social media. So that's the huge difference as well. And I've like even with the business sanctuary that you're in a year or two ago, that essentially got filled, like 25 people a year-long program, like with a list of about 700 people, So it wasn't even a huge list, and I filled that year-long program. So there's those things as well that people think, oh, well, if I want to have a year-long program or whatever, I've got to have 5,000 or 10,000 people on my list. But they're based on very different metrics, the very sort of, I don't know, I kind of want to call them the masculine metrics of, only 1% of your list will convert type of thinking, But when I hear those,
which is kind of based on the opt-in.
With just doing things different, doing quantity, not quality. It's based on that approach, and if you follow those numbers, you start to run or attempt to run your business very differently. Whereas I remember getting to a point going, those stats, no, they're not. What's the word? Like they're not good enough. Like that's not acceptable. I think that's the word. That's not acceptable for me. To have a 20 or to 25% open rate, that's not acceptable to me. That means there's 75% waste type thing,
That's an interesting way to look at it, as waste too. I mean, I had a similar thing when I moved over to that as well, because I had freebies. And it's funny how you're saying I experienced the same thing. The freebies that people signed up to the quickest were also the ones that those people that unsubscribed the fastest as well. But I'm the same as you. Like, my list is really small, but when I release pilot spaces for my new designs, they always fill from my list. I actually never promote pilot spaces externally, and they always fill from my list. So, and that's just a list that I've nurtured for a really long time. So the theory has worked for me as well in a very practical sense too. I think that people are going to be wondering though, if I'm not building my list, then how am I selling? Who am I selling to? How does that actually work? If I'm not great, especially if someone's just starting out and they're just starting to build their list, and they've been told I need to have X number of people on my list to sell X number of spaces. What would you say to people who are worried about that?
I guess, I don't believe there's any particular one formula for everyone. And it's so funny because I often hear coaches going, this is no cookie cutter, blah, blah, blah. And yet it totally is, because they're following the standard marketing formula of have an opt-in, do a free webinar, blah, 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 blah. But I guess probably how I'd like to answer this question is, if I was starting over, like if I was starting from scratch, knowing what I know now, how would I go about it? And how I would go about it initially is with audience building and discoverability. So because, I still use social media. My main platform now is Instagram. And I do that. That's, for me, that's a big part of my own creative self-expression and enjoyment. You know, I don't have any full-on business strategy there. Of course, I do share what I'm doing, but it's more fun for me. So yes, I'm still using social media because I enjoy it, but when I don't enjoy it, I will stop. So my focus and my advice to people now is focus on discoverability, because that is a more passive approach to marketing. And so how do you do that? Well, again, it depends on your preferences. For me, I enjoy writing. So I know that I can name things and write things in a way that meet a need that is out there, and that people will actually find those pieces when they're searching on Google or whatever. So I would channel effort into that. Also video content on YouTube, simply because it's a search engine. People go there to find information. It's very intentional. Whereas on social media, it's not. People are there just scrolling, doing whatever. They're not actually intentionally seeking out anything. So it's really good to channel your efforts into some sort of writing, blogging, videos, so that they can be picked up. And they can actually be picked up fairly quickly when you name them in a good way. So the next thing, that would be my first sort of phase one of a new business, is to sort of be cultivating this audience and things like that, getting some awareness about, you know, what you offer and how you think and blah, blah, blah. And then if we take this example of, you know, one of my most successful courses for human design generators called The Art of Responding, that came out of a blog that I wrote in 2017, where I was just simply sharing what I'd learned about being a human design generator. And to cut a long story short, that this is how I started to get discoverable in the first instance. People just, I was checking out my stats, and I was like, people like are going to that blog that I wrote a year ago or something, all of a sudden, like, what the hell's going on there? I thought someone must have just shared it in a human design group, but it kept creeping up and up. And so anyway, I decided to create a training around that, and then eventually this tiny course. So there's things like that you can do. You can create that content. You can, also, I just want to say, when I say create content, I'm also not talking about kind of being a content machine, because often when people talk about content marketing, it's like, you get this feeling, you got to keep churning it out. You're churning it out. But for me, again, if it was in the beginning and I, maybe didn't have a lot of clients, maybe I would focus on putting out one piece of, like, writing one article a week or something, and I mean, even that might be a lot for some people, but just, as a ballpark, I would create one good piece, one quality piece, and put it out there, and just keep doing that, and then see which ones get kind of picked up, and then you can create things from there. Does that sort of answer? And then that kind of will eventually lead us to what I'm doing now.
I love that whole philosophy. And I think one of the things that you touched on there right at the start of answering that question was how you spoke about, I like to write things and I can write them in a way that really appeals to people. And I think what you touched on there is like the way that you create content, or the medium that you create it. I mean, there's so many different mediums available to us, like audio, video, writing, screen shares. I like doing little screen shares of training things because some of my stuff is technical and it works for you. I really enjoy that, and it does not feel energetically draining for me at all to do that. So it's like, not only play with the content that you're sharing, but also play with the mediums as well, to see which one feels like best for you in your system, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many people want to know, where should I be? Should I be on Instagram? Should I be in Pinterest? Should I be on LinkedIn? Should. And like, my first thing I say is, where do you want to be? And of course, that might be annoying to some people, but because they're not used to hearing that. But I'm like, I want to tap into what fills you with a bit of excitement, And of course, I've had people say,
otherwise you're not going to keep doing it. It's not going to be sustainable.
Some of them are saying none of them, none of social media. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So it's something else, right?
Yeah.
So like, let's just forget about social media. You know, that's what I believe. If there is nothing in you that is interesting, if it all feels whatever, then there's something else. Or I have also seen people, it's just that they've been trained to do things in such a way, like Instagram, for example. There was someone who just the amount of effort that felt like she needed to put into Instagram each day, like doing reels and blah, blah, blah. It was very draining. But when she had a total shift as to actually how would she like to do it, suddenly she felt this creative, you know. So that's the other thing. It's like if you're feeling really, you know, like there's just no energy there for it, it could be it's just not for you, or how you're trying to make yourself do it, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's
a great answer. You really did so well. Thank you so much. I know everyone will be wondering about that. So tell us now, because I want to talk really quickly about your book, but we alluded to the fact that with your opt-ins, the process you're telling us about before was just a stepping stone to where you are now. And this is really revolutionary, what you're doing now. I have not seen anyone else do this. Can you tell us about what you're doing now?
Yeah. So what I noticed is that I had this growing irritation about, it sounds really crazy, but about people joining my list. But it wasn't just about them joining my list. I mean, what a problem to have, right? But because they were required to answer questions, I could see the reasons why, you know. And so one of the things that kind of irritated / concerned me is that a lot of people were joining my list because they had found me via human design, like a lot of human design generators and projectors. And their intention, I could see, was they were joining my list to get tips, essentially. They didn't say it like that, but, you know, they were there to get tips on human design. And I'm like, I don't give tips on that. Like, I have a course, you can sign up for the course, you know, but I'm like, I don't get that. So it felt kind of irritating that they've obviously seen the course, because there's no real way they couldn't have. Like, in that blog, I mentioned the course a couple of times. So there's no way they couldn't have seen it. That's my view. And so what's happened is, instead of them buying the course, they're like, oh, just join the list. And I get it, because that's how it's meant to work, right? But it's just that I don't share that information. I am very, what's the word, protective of it. I don't share it freely. I believe there's an exchange required for this information, and that is you buy the course, right? And I remember sitting down with my husband, and I'm like, can you just hear me out on this? You know, this is how I'm feeling, you know, like. And he just happened to be reading this book from this guy called Doberman Dan. Now, he sounds like a pretty cool guy. I don't know if I would follow all of his ideas, but he's like, yeah, babe, exactly. He's like, that's what Doberman Dan says. You know, he's just like, no, like all these freebies and, you know, so whatever. He was sort of echoing what I was feeling. And, you know, I was hearing about this other coach that also wasn't, you know, didn't think it was, you know, wasn't advocating that. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I got up from that conversation and I went to my Squarespace website that you built, Lana, and and I went down to the head, you know, the footer, and I just put something like, because I just had this idea, like I thought, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. Like, I really didn't, but I knew I had to do something. And in the book, I talk about the wisdom of irritation and how you've actually got to listen to that wisdom, because there might be something there for you, you know? So I just wrote something like, if you're looking for my insider newsletter, you'll have an option to join that when you register for one of my classes or enroll in a tiny course. And I thought, I don't know. And then I pressed publish.
So they can only get on your list if they buy something first. Then they have the option, right?
Yeah. So the button in the footer used to go to the page where they could sign up for my list, where they could ask those questions. Yeah. So I disconnected it, like there was that it no longer takes them. So really the button now says enroll in a tiny course or something like that, and it feels so cheeky, right? It feels so cheeky. Even when I was doing it, I was like, oh my god, like this is so cheeky. But when I pressed publish, I was just like, I felt like like I just felt amazing. And even though I thought it could be a terrible idea, like intellectually, like my body felt good, and so I trust my body now. I've learned to do that. My mind was thinking, oh, about this, Danny, you're already building your list pretty slowly, this is going to slow it down even more, like, you know. And I just thought, I can always change my mind, you know. But then what happened was really interesting. My tiny course sales, so they'd been sort of going at this particular level for, you know, several months. After 1 month of me changing that, they doubled the next month, right? Then the next month,
unbelievable.
Then the next month it went up, like they increased by 70% more than before.
Wow.
So even,
it's like crypto.
Yeah, right. And I was just like, oh my God. Now, at that time there was, you know, a new course released as well and stuff like that. I didn't know whether it would stay up there. It seems to be settling more at the moment at like a 50% increase. So basically that move, I could say, has doubled my income.
Yeah.
Passive income too.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, that's the thing. It's like, I didn't know if it would be a good choice. In some ways I don't know if I can still say I don't know if it's a good choice. It seems to be the right choice for now, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then, like I haven't had much said about it. I did have one lady email me. She said, Danny, I'm trying to work out how to join your list and I just keep getting looped around. And she's like, it looks to me that I need to be a student or a client to be on your list. Is that correct? And I said, yes, it is. Yeah. And so, what I do from like a GDPR perspective is once they actually purchase something, they get an initial confirmation email, and then it basically says this is where they get an opportunity to join my list. So they're not automatically added, but they're they say, you know, I say, hey, whatever I say, I can't even remember now, but, you know, you can join my list. And I do offer them a little surprise, but the thing that I offer, I don't talk about. It's not a dangling thing. It's just like they only find out about it once they've already purchased, if you know what I mean. Which I'm quite comfortable about. And so that's where it's at. And it feels good.
Yeah, I bet. And thank you for giving us the real insight into what happened with your income and the realities of that. I mean, as you said to me before on this call, you're not saying to people, go and do this thing. It's more about like taking the idea and then applying it in your own way to your business. But it's nice to hear the inside scoop of what's actually going on for you when you made those changes as well. So thanks for being transparent with us around that. It's not often that people do that. So appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I think that, the main message I want to communicate with that story is not that I think everyone should stop doing opt-ins, you know, or that they should do it the way I did it. It's like, no, like listen to the understory or whatever, the thread here. And it was me really not feeling right, not feeling comfortable, feeling irritated or whatever, deciding to listen to that, deciding to experiment, you know, and not even being totally sure at each stage whether it was right mentally, you know, but my body felt good about it. So and who knows, it may change again in a year or something, I don't know, but that's the main thing. It's like one of the key themes that I really try and put into everything I communicate now is to trust yourself even when everyone around you is doing the contrary, you know, and trust yourself, especially when it is contrary to mainstream marketing advice or business advice.
So on that note, you have got this whole conversation kind of comes out of one of the chapters in your new book that is going to be
my little sample launching. Just arrived.
Yeah, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
So this is a tiny book to go along with my tiny courses. So a tiny this tiny book idea is something that I got off Alexandra Franzen. In fact, some people will know her. She's not on social media at all. Do you know her? I think you know her. Yeah.
I know her.
And so I came across something of hers a few years ago, which was The Joy of Tiny Projects. It was a blog. And that's what kind of gave me the inspiration to do tiny courses. So basically what this book is, it brings together a lot of my philosophies and things like that. So like things like the wisdom of irritation. What does that even mean? Trusting yourself, creating your own definition of success. It's a very philosophical approach to marketing in a way. It's like a part self-help, part, marketing, book type thing. Yeah. So, so this is the official launch day will be on my birthday, the 5th of December. And and then in a couple of weeks from today, the pre-orders will be available. The electronic version I will release next year, but on the 5th of December, it'll be the hard copy.
The hard copy. Yeah. Awesome. And I know that we're all kind of hungry for this kind of alternative, holistic way of viewing marketing. And also just generally, we can see that theme in society around the need to slow down and do things more minimally and simplistic. So, I know from following you all these years that that's exactly the philosophy that you enjoy talking about, and that's going to be unfolded all through that book. I can't wait to get a copy of it and just soak things up and be reminded that it's okay to do things differently.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's like the tech gods are telling us that we need to go. So
we need to keep it tiny. We've gone a little bit beyond tiny.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dani, and I will include all of the links that we've talked about, and also your book, link to your book when it's released with this as well. But thank you so much, Dani. It's been really insightful as always.
Yeah, thank you, Alana. It's been great talking to you. Bye for now.